Good morning. Bonjour, Danimaganaduk, Miigwech Kibijaik, Sage Wegijik, Dishnikas. I'd like to welcome you all here this morning to the Interlake Reserves Tribal Council's press conference. We have gathered some chiefs, some councillors from the communities to speak on a very important issue, specifically the recent provincial government announcement on the Environmental Advisory Committee, and the chiefs are dismayed and disappointed with those negotiations. Specifically, the $15.9 million in economic development funding to assist the affected First Nations. With that, I want to introduce Carl Zednick, the CEO of the Interlake Reserves Tribal Council, to open it up and give us some of the details of the press conference.
Good morning. Today is a very important day for us to address the provincial government and their continued lack of respect towards our communities, lack of respect toward our livelihoods. They continue to rape us, molest us. And I mean that in a general sense because our people have been dismayed, have been disrupted, and also displaced. 2011, 2014, our floods that happened. Well, the emergency channel that was created during that time affected all of our communities. So we're here today to address the shortcomings of this government and their continued disrespect towards our people, the First Nations people, the rights holders of this land. That is their land still today and always will be, time immemorial. And so that, with these two announcements on the Environmental Advisory Committee and the $15.9 million towards economic development, this is a slap in the face towards our governments. Our First Nations are sovereign. We have our own rights here. And so you continue to dictate to us what these terms are in terms of being a participant on this project. I'm sorry, but you're being a participant on our land. And so for that, I have quite disappointed in their approach, continued approach towards our people and our communities and the chiefs here. Where these two channels intercept with Lake Manitoba, Lake Winnipeg, on one side of the channel, there's an important cultural heritage site, and in there is bones, pottery and all that stuff, archaeological stuff that needs to be uncovered, but done in a respectful way. Well, the government wanted to just go and bulldoze right through and just dig them right up. How would you feel if we went and digged up your ancestors in your graveyard? Well, I'm sure you wouldn't like it, so that's completely disrespect towards us. The other thing is the other side on Lake Winnipeg, there's a important spot there where the lake sturgeon spawn. That's right at the mouth of the channel. If you put that channel there, lake sturgeon, they won't spawn. That lake will become dead. The fish will become dead, and you're just going to create a wasteland of that lake. So we're quite disappointed. $15.9 million compared to $500 million, that's peanuts. I've worked on projects with Enbridge and other big projects where, they're offering $100 million contracts. They're offering $50 million contracts. So this government needs to step up to the plate and really take meaningful action towards reconciliation rather than just meaningless words that don't mean anything to us. And so for that, you're going to have a hard time building this project. Thank you.
We'd open up to questions or comments from the chiefs or the councillors in relation to the treatment that they're getting from the province on the channel.
I'd like to say something for regards to Lake St. Martin. We're fully against this project going forward. My First Nations hasn't been fully compensated for the number of years that we've been in flood. So it's 2011. We haven't been fully compensated for the 2011 flood, and our reserve is fully against this. We're not going to be on board to make this go forward, even though Manitoba holds a contract on this side and digging the contract on this side, saying that we'll give you this much dollars and to walk away from IRTC. I'm not about that. I'm truthful, and we're not going to do that. So we're fully against this until my reserve is fully compensated for the 2011 flood.
I'd like to make some comments today. Just reading the letter here, I can say that I am extremely disappointed with the decision that was made. My community was not properly consulted in this matter. And from looking at the 39 communities involved. I mean no disrespect, but how can a community from up north have any say what happens in my community down here? My community was flooded out for a few years. And our community actually gets the end of everything at the end of Dauphin River. What comes through Lake Manitoba goes through Penamutang, Lake St. Martin, and then through my community. I can say right now that our community is still in the rebuilding process from the flood, and we're not satisfied with the homes that we received, as they are not up to standard, and we are dealing with mold issues in our homes even to this day. So at this time, my community stands against this, and I support Chief Travers in his decision as well. I stand with him.
Good morning. Byron Swan, Lake Manitoba First Nation. I myself, along with my colleagues here, feel that we have again been given the short end of the stick. Dealing with provincial regulations and bylaws and that are something that us First Nations have never been privy to. We're under federal jurisdiction, and maybe the government understood that more than they're letting on, the provincial government, because as First Nation we should have right to consultation. And the 2 years I've been in council in our community, Lake Manitoba First Nation, I have not had any consultation with the province, and neither is our people. So a couple months back, we met with the province, and the dialogue that happened, we figured we had an open transparency that we were going to be part of this $500 million project, and to realize they're giving us table scraps now, and now it's proposal driven, $15.9 million to be divided between 39 communities. We have, if you broke that up and distributed that evenly between each band, that's less than $400,000. And anybody knows on a First Nation, to get a house, to get a 4-bedroom house, for example, in a First Nation, costs you $380,000. So the government's looking, well, we'll give you one house, we'll say. Do whatever with the money you please, but we still got to apply for it. We can still be denied an opportunity to have access to these so-called resources that the province is trying to give us. But on that note, myself personally, not only as a council elected official in our community, but also as a band member, I'm totally against this project, and any direction that my colleagues and our Chief Cornell McLean decides to take, he has the support of his council and his community behind him, and we will follow him through whatever direction we're being led to. Thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you, Byron. I just want to introduce Chief Rod Travers from Jackhead First Nation and ask him to say a few words.
I traveled from Kanuzyoshtegon, also known as Jackhead, 3 hours from here, and over the years I've noticed that significant changes in terms of water surrounding our communities, particularly Lake Winnipeg, which I, for one, witnessed the water affecting our community, and at the same time, the inland lakes as well. From the 1940s, the province, without proper consultation, built dams to uphold the fur-bearing animals at the time, without any proper consultation. And to this day, we've encountered water affecting our community as well. And if we look at the map, the water that flows from the Interlake area, around Lake Manitoba area, that affects us as well. So I agree with my colleagues from Interlake reserves that, you know, the province came along and decided, you know, to control the flow of waters towards our communities without any proper consultation. And today, we are suffering from the water flows, the high intakes of water from southern Manitoba. And I know it affects us greatly because of our fishing, the pollution that we experience in our fisheries. And it's not good. It's not good for healthy beings of our communities. Like, you know, we rely on fish as a subsistence and also for employment and as a livelihood. That affects us greatly. Therefore, you know, I agree with my colleagues that something needs to be done. The announcement from the previous the minister in Fairford a month or so ago is you know, a clear indication that we know it's election time. The province is throwing all kinds of money at us, and you know, and they want us to accept that, which is not good. I think we deserve more. We deserve more money. We deserve more clarity on what impact it'll have on our communities in years to come, especially with climate change. There's abundance of water that's affecting our community. Lots of water we haven't seen before. The lake just south of our community, it's also affecting the cottage owners. They've you know, expressed their concerns as well from the amount of water that's flowing into the lakes as well, and that affects us quite a bit. And I'm hoping that the province will revise their commitment to our communities. I'm hoping that we will commit some kind of a strategy with our leaders, our leadership from Interlake. You know, and that way it'll benefit our communities and our people. That's all I have to say at the moment. Miigwech.
Are there any questions from the media in relation to this?
Yeah, in August, there was meetings with Chief Cornell McLean, and he left feeling optimistic at the meetings with the province. What's changed since August and now? Perhaps Byron can answer that.
Well, to be honest, I think what has changed, I think the province kind of told us what we wanted to hear and what we were kind of hoping to hear, that we were going to have some kind of relationship where we were moving together as a group and joining forces. So, and with that assumption, we left the meeting feeling very positive. And then this morning, discussing what had happened with our colleagues and amongst ourselves, stating like, we just got blindsided again. And there's nobody here from the province to say what happened, what really happened. And then now we're going to be reaching out and we're going to be begging, like the gentleman from Jackhead had mentioned, that it's an election year. It's going to be near impossible to have an opportunity to sit down with all these people that are running for office and premier or whatever it was to get some kind of answer. So it looks like it's not going to be till the new year that anybody can really understand what has happened and why it went sideways. For us, we understand why it went sideways. It's because the only thing us natives have that is first is the thing, First Nation. But we should be known as the last nation, because the province does nothing for us, and they keep dictating what it is we need to do. But they keep setting us up to and bringing our hopes up and then just leave us standing at the door knocking, wondering what's going on. So the province, again, short end of the stick and has left us in the dark.
And at the top, I think it was Cornell mentioned 500 million. Where was that? Can I just get a better sense of what the initial expectations were, and then now 50 million falling short?
For sure, thank you. So 500 million is their anticipated scope of work cost for the channels to construct, right? So that's their overall anticipated costs. So when you look at that and compare it with the 15.9 million announcement, you know, that's a drop in a bucket. Like, that's not a lot. You know, and then when you add a bunch of communities that aren't going to be as impacted as these 7, right? These 7 are the most impacted, right? They're right there, right beside the channel. 1 kilometer or less, they're right there, right where the mouth is. And so when you look at a right-of-way picture, right, a community that's, you know, 400 kilometers away has nothing to do with the right-of-way. Well, why should they be considered as part of the 39 here? I mean, so you got the strategy, and I know what they're doing. I've worked for big mega companies before, and so the strategy is let's get everyone involved. We'll get all the support from those that support us first, and whoever's that don't, well, you're left out. While these 7, if they're left out, I don't think it's going to be a good thing. So, you know, with them and their livelihoods, they've been on that land time immemorial. You know, when you guys first arrived as settlers, we taught you how to live on this land. We taught you how to fish. We taught you how to live and survive the harsh conditions here. So, you know, you got to give us respect that's due to us, because if it wasn't for us, you guys wouldn't be living here today. And so as a partnership and true reconciliation, we need to move beyond the past, which we have always done. We've always come to the table to meet, to sit and discuss. You know, we have thick skin. You know, with even Hugh John MacDonald, when he decided to starve us into submission. Well, that's what this province is trying to do right now. They're trying to starve us into submission. And so, with that being said, you know what? If we have to go the federal court process, we will.
It seems like a concern is the proposal side to it.
Yep.
From your understanding, because I've read the press release, and it seems a little bit confusing about what this proposal should be.
Yep.
What are your guys' understanding of what the province is expecting you guys to propose?
You know, it's very general, open-ended, and so there's not clear criteria on what to expect from these proposals in terms of what you should submit and so forth. So I know they're early in their announcement in regards to the decision and announcing it. However, at the end of the day, you know, we got to be clear in understanding what the terms of reference are, and so that we can make sure that the criteria is easily understood, so that these communities not only can be part of it, but who knows, maybe they can go and amend it and revise it to a bigger portion of the cost, so, or of opportunity. So, you know, when these communities were flooded and forced off their lands, you know, a lot of negative effects that had come with that. You know, mental health. You know, suicide. You know, imagine living in a hotel. Are you a mother? No? Okay. So imagine being a mother, 2 kids, 3 kids, and you're in a hotel for 3 years, every day, living out of a hotel. Like, there's not much space there to live. You know, you and your partner, things probably get stressful there, right? And so with that being said, you know, now they're back in their communities. They don't have any jobs. So this project would be a perfect reconciliation example to create employment. You know, back in 2017, IRTC was part of a construction contract on the access road, and I believe we created 56% First Nation employment. And so that's the highest that any project has ever done here in the province. And so that being said, we just hope that the province will step to the plate and, you know, truly come to the table in a spirit of reconciliation that benefits us all. This is Canada. This is the 21st century. We should all be equal partners today. You know, we have people that are educated. We have people that are business owners. You know, there's no way saying that we don't have the capacity anymore. And so for that being said, you know, even though the project has adverse effects and so forth, you know, we still need to understand and study that. However, you know, with the burial grounds and also the Lake Sturgeon, like, we have to also sort of figure out a realignment there.
And I know there's been discussions about the potential of a southern flood agreement, much like the northern one.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that? Where is that? Where are you guys at in that discussions?
So, in that it's very at an initial discussion phase in terms of any agreement or anything like that. When we won that court case on the access road, you know, typically governments and industry will come to the table and offer some kind of settlement, right? Because we had to incur costs there, right? On our lawyer side, they incurred costs there on their side. Ostlers, you know, we had MLT-Aikens. No, we both spent over $1 million there. Money that could have been spent in our communities, money that could have spent in other areas of importance, right? And so with that impasse that we came with 50% in terms of winning, it was a good court victory though in terms of the permitting process. You know, we've now created a precedence now. Governments now have to meet with these communities on permits. They can't just bulldoze their way through like they did. And so that being said, we're hopeful that this government will come to a table, you know, and there'll be something offered to these communities that have been affected.
We have Chief Curvis Anderson, Penamutang First Nation, on the Zoom. He wants to say a few words. Curvis?
You know, I'll speak for on behalf of Penamutang First Nation here in the comments and the questions. Thank you everybody for being there. I can't make it today. You know, Penamutang First Nation is not against flood protection. The Interlake area residents know all too well the hardships floods create on residents, families. Like Carl said, and it affects all areas. It doesn't just affect your grass in your yard, it affects your mental health, your social life, the way we live. And but here we are. We do have territorial rights, we have treaty rights, we have land rights. Acknowledging these is a true reconciliation. Again, it's unfortunate that we're having to fend for ourselves is the way I feel. You know, treaty obligations to land and water should be protected by Canada, all of Canada. The treaties have this written in the agreement we have with the Crown. Land and water is written right in our treaty to be protected. And here we are standing alone. So we don't have a preference to be making legal claims. But in this day and age of again, with the word, is it just a word, reconciliation, being thrown around? It's becoming very clear to myself that our First Nations rights are going to have to be protected by First Nations. I think it's getting to the day now where we have to quit relying and have that expectation that anybody's going to protect our rights. It's going to be up to us to protect these rights, and this is what we're doing here. We're not doing this because we want to have Winnipeg flood. We're not doing this because we want the farmers to flood. We're here because we have no choice. Someone's got to stand up for treaty rights, and I guess it has to be us. So I'm sorry to say, I put it that way, but that's just the way I feel. But what are we going to do? Just sit and wait for someone to come along and protect these rights? They're not coming. It's going to be up to us, and it's too bad we have to do it this way. And I stand by IRTC and all the chiefs that are making this claim, and we've made it ourselves too in Penamutang. So with those few words, I'll leave it at that for now. Just my opening thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Curvis Anderson. Any more questions from the media?
Maybe you could just get a better sense of, you mentioned a little bit about how flooding affects trap lines and along the river. Does anyone else want to comment on how flooding might, what you're seeing in your community due to flooding and how that's impacting?
In my area of Lake Winnipeg, where the channel comes out, you know, I got hit hard. I used to be able to produce and finish off my quotas within maybe a week to 2 weeks tops. Today, I don't see that. I've already been at it 3 weeks, going hard every day, and I'm not. I could say I'm only a quarter done. I see a decrease in the fish, as well as the animals that used to be around. You know, I see a decrease in the impacts of the channel in my community. I could also see it when I go to surrounding communities, you know, and by the way, this $500,000 project and then get hit with a $15.9 million, you know, hey, is this the proper start to reconciliation, you know? Is this the way we are going to be going when we talk about giving back or recognizing we Anishinaabes? You know, is this the way we're going to be going? You know, Canada itself, the word Canada, may I state, Canada is an Anishinaabe word. And that word, spoken in my language, means hide them. These were for the foreigners out there that were running away from the people here, the settlers that were running away from the First Nation people. At that time, it was the Anishinaabes that came up to them and said, hey, they're running for their lives. Let's hide them. We said, Canada. Canada means in our language, it means, let's hide them here. So you got to get Canada straightened out here too, because that is what truly we as people do. We have compassion, and we see the threats of people. When we see they are being threatened, we as First Nation people, we look to that, and we have compassion to that. The way this paper comes out to us, I don't see it as compassion. I see it as a slap in the face. This is the way we're going to go. That is what I feel like is happening to me. I feel residential school all over again. I feel the pain all over again, us being dictated in what we should do. You know, it bothers me. It bothers my heart. We need to readdress things. We need to go back to the table on things and properly consult us properly, not with emails, not with paper, but face to face. As the pandemic is over now, we could have that face-to-face connection again to discuss our rights, our treaty rights, our children's rights who are coming behind us. We need to set the stage here so that they don't have to go through what we've been going through for the longest time. That's all. With that, and thank you.
I come from a family of commercial fishermen. We've relied on the lakes to provide clothing, food, everything for our community. And my dad, 84 years old, has said that, son, he said, since 2010, when the water started changing, he said, to how it is now, he said, you see the decline in all the fish. And they say it's a cycle, but it's not a cycle. This is a man-made event that happened to our region. Like, we lost literally everything. Our backyard is Lake Manitoba. It's beautiful. Our community, we have a beautiful beach. Probably, in my opinion, one of the nicest beaches in Manitoba. And we've never had any reclamation on it ever since the flood. We've been told where we can build now in our community because of the flood. And we've never seen, if minimal, compensation. But getting back to the thing, even for our harvesting, our community members that harvest and give fish to our community members and that, and everybody's been relying more and more on the land because of what Canada's doing to itself with this outrageous pricing for our foods and everything that's going up, inflation. And they've seen a major decline in what's available now for fish, wildlife. And again, this spring in our community, we flooded again because we don't, in our community, we're for flood control, absolutely, because we flood all the time now. We don't even have adequate culverts in our community. We have a provincial road that runs 6 kilometers into our community. They don't even come out and cut our shoulders. We don't even have culverts running underneath this road from one side of the ditch to the other. So, like I say, the province has never done anything for First Nations, and I can't see them ever doing it. Maybe it's because they know we're a resilient people, and we're gonna forgive. You know, we don't forget, because we're always reminded every time we sit down with an elected official from the province or Canada, and we're promised this. And then we leave, and when we go home and tell our people, okay, you know, there's an opportunity for us here. And then all of a sudden you get a phone call because somebody just watched a press release saying, you're not getting it now. You're not getting anything. And this $15.9 million, like Carl had mentioned, we don't know what that's going to entitle us to. You know, because if they say, well, there's going to be ditching projects or there's going to be reclamation, you know, on the right-of-way passage. To buy a dozer today costs you $500,000. And if you get $350,000 to do something that's going to benefit your community, what are you benefiting? Nobody. Brant or Cat or whoever is going to benefit because of the money being spent there. But our membership is the people that need to benefit, because we're always left in the dark on every single thing that happens in the province. The province tells us we're a federal responsibility. And then federally they're telling us, well, you know, you got to lean and work with your province. But how can you when you keep getting backdoored? So, but like I say, getting back to the initial thing was the decline right across our provinces. There's more and more water and less land. And, you know, the consultation process for the First Nation doesn't exist, and we're stewards. We consider ourselves stewards of all the lands in Canada. Not only in our reserves, but Canada. We need to have this open dialogue, and we need to have this relationship based on trust, not on just we're going to do this and not do it. So, thank you.
The previous 6 years, the provincial government and the federal government haven't been at the table with our reserve into rebuilding our community. I endure the last 4 years, haven't even talked to the province or federal government in regards to my reserve because they don't want to come to the table. Our reserve is in dire need for a health center, and this is something that they promised us, to have a health center going back to LSM. And I'm begging for a health center. Like, I've been begging for the last couple of months to set a meeting up to build a health center for our community, to have that health and safety for our people. And just a little history: since 2011, we had over 200 deaths in our community, and they don't see a house to go back to. Right? The federal government cut off over 300 families that had to leave here in the city, displaced still. And they said, go back to your home. Go live there with go live there in a 5-bedroom house with 6 families. And that's not good. It's not good at all. And I'm fully against this project going forward until we're fully compensated at Lake St. Martin. And I'll fight this with everything I got, with our people, with IRTC here.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple comments and one question. One of the comments I want to make is I did a lot of PR at the Melton House years ago on the Squaw and Ivy project. It was an interesting request leadership from Nelson House to come to Australia to help them talk about how the government of Manitoba and Manitoba Hydro reach a partnership with Nelson House on building the Westwater Hydro project, because the country of Australia was trying to find new ways to work with their Aborigines, we call them Indigenous people here. We do have history from other countries too on fighting our governments here, federal, provincial. Late Peguis Chief Louis Stevenson brought the apartheid leaders from South Africa here over, it all started over the province not wanting to put a few dollars to repair a bridge, a wooden bridge, a dangerous bridge, being used by band members of Peguis. So anyways, there's international fights right here. We all know what happened in the big media in BC, Alberta, pipeline. The feds had to step in. Justin Trudeau had to step in and try and smoothen that over. But we constantly are talking reconciliation. Reconciliation. What does reconciliation mean? And who does it mean? Whatever it means to who? I'm glad that Interlake Chiefs are pointing that out. Administration, CEO of IRTC, Carl Zadnik, and really appreciate what you're doing here again. This has been a series of ongoing campaign events to address what former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper did in signing off over $500 million to build this, what I believe is a destructive, culturally, linguistically, and everything in between, destructive project going to affect our Interlake First Nations. I do want to point out also, working in the north years past, when they did the Northern Flood Agreement, it was specified to 5 or 6 bands only. So we've got to highlight that the Interlake First Nations are going to be impacted most by this project. So I'm just learning now, as a publisher of Manitoba's oldest native newspaper, there's 39 responding First Nations to this whole project. The other thing is, I am promoting one company the last 2.5 years. They construct houses and all that kind of stuff. I won't name the company, they're a First Nation, but they had a project that a year ago was approved by the Peguis First Nation at $200,000, and then after the funding started to flow, it was approved over 6 months. The price on that same project increased to $240,000. So I'm saying on procurement, which will be part of this project, if it ever moves forward, Stephen Harper, remember I mentioned him? Was that 8 years ago where he signed off? That's $500 million. What's the cost today? Because especially with post-COVID, 2 years of impact, shortages of supplies and everything else in between, there's a greater cost to this project, not $500 million. That was when Stephen Harper inked it with his pen with the Manitoba Premier at the time. This is almost 10 years later. There's a greater cost. And when the chiefs keep talking and the leadership of our Interlake bands keeps talking about cost, it takes a lot of money to remediate, and to fix things, to try and get them as much as possible back to normal. One Interlake band leader just mentioned 6 years living in Winnipeg in hotels. Would you guys justify, as mainstream Manitobans or Canadians, your families living in hotels for 6 years? 6 years, not 6 months or 6 weeks. And then they're going back to their community and it's still not working. But one final statement I want to say is the Lake St. Martin, Lake Manitoba Channels Project is part of the provincial historical regime going back to an illegal Fairford Dam that was built, or the Portage River diversion. It's all the same system that provinces to protect Winnipeg. Of course, you want to protect the capital and maybe Brandon, but who are you impacting? The Interlake bands, the Interlake people. I'm from the Interlake.
Channel, this has been an ongoing issue here for the Interlake Reserves Tribal Council communities, my community especially. You know, we're flooded in 2011, 2014. And, you know, the result of that is 2 channels coming through our communities where We have to think about our livelihoods for our people, our traditional medicines, our hunting grounds, you know, our outside communities. And, you know, we have a traditional burial ground by Moosehorn where they're trying to make their cut. And, you know, they're trying to go in there with machines. I think it's appropriate that they go in there with shovels, dig them out, and figure what they're going to do. But the other thing being is that, you know, the contamination that's going to be caused by a water trough in Moosehorn for the lakes, you know, the sturgeons, the fish that run through, that are going to be running through there because there's control structures and that are going to be put into place. There's a lot of land that's been lost on every First Nation in Manitoba. You know, not every First Nation in Manitoba, but in the Interlake, my community especially, we can only build on a portion of our land where it's called the flood zone. We've never been offered a CSA by the government of Canada or the government of Manitoba, but I can assure you we're suing the provincial and federal government because the cottage owners of St. Laurent have set a precedence that they've won. They won $85 million lawsuit. We're only minutes away from that same area. So if they continue to say that we're a community that's on higher ground, but offered the same to a community that's at the same level as us, lake level as Lake Manitoba community, my First Nation, you know, we're in very good position right now, and it wasn't 85 million we were looking for. You know, it was a mere portion of that land swap infrastructure for Lake Manitoba, just to move my community forward. Like, you know, because a lot of homes are contaminated, mold. We've had them assessed. We've sent all this information into the government. You know, but I have to look out for my other member communities as well that have not been treated fairly by the province of Manitoba or the government of Canada. You know, there's mold in these homes. There's shortage of land, and in one community, in the Dauphin River community, that, you know, we've asked them for a bridge to connect them to the other part of their community where they don't have to use a boat. That's one thing that needs to be looked at by the government. They need to assure us that they're listening to us, not just taking us for granted because you know, they've offered nickels and dimes to our members. Like, you know, we deserve better. We're the richest people of these lands with our resources and that. We could, you know, put a firm hand against them of the resources that we own. We could start shutting down the, you know, places where they want to go and do their thing. You know, a lot of times I thought about the $15 million that was offered to the 39 First Nations. Well, that's a drop in the bucket. What they owe us, they can keep their $15 million. As far as I'm concerned, for Lake Manitoba, I won't be applying for a penny of that because I don't think that I deserve to have one slice of bread while, you know, these other communities are getting crumbs. You know, that's something that the minister needs to look at as well, that payment to the First Nations, the 39 on the Lake Manitoba side. You know, and there's also many on the Lake Winnipeg side that have lost their, you know, their fishing industries and that, where they have to go miles out to the lake now because the shoreline has decreased, you know, and so there's various things here happening within, you know, our communities, and I think it's very important that the people of each First Nation be respected by the government, you know, because them coming to the table, giving us a plaque and saying, well, they met with us. That's something, you know, that's something that they just handed us gifts and it says, well, here at Province of Manitoba and Lake Manitoba or Kinujeshtigan or, you know, Dauphin River. I don't think that's a very fair offer. It means, you know, nothing to me that, you know, I'll say that to the minister that provided that, you know, because I spoke to my colleagues before when those gifts were handed out. I think, you know, it's been a long time coming. They want this to happen. You know, we could say that we've exhausted one premier on it, but she's exhausted us. He's exhausted us too, you know, with his way of handling. You know, at least I can say that the new premier, you know, she's willing to meet. She's willing to come to the table. She comes to functions, but, you know, I think it's a little too late. We have to look at the picture now, right? You know, climate change is here. The water levels aren't going to drop. You know, it's going to increase. The weather is going to change. You know, they're saying we're in for a very, very cold winter, lots of snow. They're calling for, you know, 10 centimeters of snow in the Brandon area tomorrow. that water has to go somewhere when it comes down the river, right? It comes towards Lake Manitoba, you know, with the Portage Diversion, the Assiniboine River. So, you know, I think we've done lots for the city of Winnipeg as communities where, you know, they flooded us and in order to save Winnipeg. So we're not upset about that, but at least be genuine in your talks when you say when you're gonna assist and help each community out. What
each community wants from the province right now. Like if you had your chance to speak to them directly about what you want.
Well, that my health center, so I could provide medication and you know, health and safety to my community. It's something we've been fighting for 6 years. We don't even have it.
I want to tell them, make sure that the homes that we have are that we're going to be getting renovated are properly funded to get the job done, as well as a bridge for our community. You know, we do have people that live on the south side of our community. We actually have more land on the south side that we want to develop, and I can tell you from past experience, it is hard for EMS to get across the river when there is an emergency across. You know, if police or EMS are needed across the river, they have to get on by a local's boat, which shouldn't be. There should be a bridge available for my community, as well as you know, we do have medicine that we do pick near our community that has been flooded out now. The water has gone down a little bit, but majority of the time we're not able to pick our medicine anymore, and we have to travel a lot further. So, you know, and the diversion that's coming out here, it's not too far from my community. You can actually go down to one of our local beaches, and you can actually walk to it. You know, and my concern is that that area of that land is also where we've where we've had our local hunters go look for moose. There's no moose around anymore in our area to hunt, to feed our elders. So it brings a great concern to me that, you know, our people lived off the land. They still do, but now it's a struggle. They have to leave away from home to go plan a trip, you know, and with the cost of gas nowadays, it's a little more costly now. So it's a lot harder for those people to go.
I'd just like to see us First Nations get a fair handshake and quit being treated like second-class citizens when we're first people. You know, we're First Nation, and we're, like I said it earlier on, it's like we're last nation. You know, we don't get the respect we deserve, and it's hard for us to go home and tell our people that this is what we've been working on, and well, we're sorry we're let down again. We just want a fair handshake, and we want the ability to govern ourselves in a manner that the way our community is structured and how our membership work. So with that, I'd just like to say we're just looking for a fair handshake and just some equality, you know, and transparency from the provincial government in regards to what they think is best for us. When, if you don't talk to somebody, how do you know? So just transparency.
Just to answer the question there of what do we want to see? You know, it's not an easy question. You have our communities do have a lot of data. We've been collecting data from our elders and all the speakers and our community members, our hunters, our fishers, our trappers, of how this what we lost. That's pretty clear. That's lost. We're not getting most of that back. All we're after here for Canadian is a process that will respect free rights. That's the first thing. First of all, we don't have a voice right now. We're locked out in the process here that we're trying to how much we want to extend that process. In that process, we don't have that voice. So first of all, we want to have a process that gives us a voice. So at least we have a say in this project. That's the main thing that I'm looking for Penelmatang is to have that opportunity to have a voice there, to have input into this project, real input into this project, to be acknowledged also, not just to be heard, but acknowledged. We're just asking for fairness. We're asking for whatever anybody else would ask for. We're not asking for anything more than anybody else would ask for. We're just asking for strong if we're asking for fairness here, quality.
Hearing my colleagues here, speak about the concerns affecting our communities, we hope that the province will rethink and revisit their commitment, what they made, because these kind of commitments that they're throwing at us in terms of monies, and I think it's long overdue that we need to make them aware that $50 million is peanuts compared to what they offer other countries. Look at the war that's going on in Ukraine. How many millions and millions of dollars they're pouring into over there, and here we are. They want us to accept $50 million. It's not going to last. $50 million is nothing compared to what they're sending out there. That's all I have to say. Which,
we shouldn't accept these channel offers from from the government of Canada until each community that has outstanding issues like CSAs are dealt with, and they're able to have every member return home. And that's concluding the Peguis First Nation. They still have members out. They need to be protected from the waters, because the water ain't going anywhere. So, that's what I think needs to happen here prior to us consenting to any more channel work.
Going back to this potential of a Southern Flood Agreement, I know a lot of northern communities that are part of the Northern Flood Agreement. There are still obviously problems there as well. They're seeing effects of hydro, water levels dropping, rising, ruining trap lines. Is there any concern if you guys go the route of Southern Flood Agreement that you will face the same issues that a lot of the northern communities are facing?
In terms of the Northern Flood Agreement, if the water levels are down, they're compensated. When our water levels are down, we get nothing. We get a bunch of rock and rotten fish on our lakefronts, right? So I think that needs to be addressed, because they're using the Lake Manitoba, Lake St. Martin to provide more service for hydro, the dams, things like that. So I think that needs to be looked at. So in terms of having a Southern Flood Agreement, it's very much possible that would benefit our communities in the south. Meanwhile, the communities in the north are being rewarded for having lake levels low.
All right, with that, I'm going to thank the press for coming, the media. Thank the chiefs for having us here, and also for Carl Zednik for making this all happen. So with that, I say miigwech, go min. We'll see you again.